Well, guys, I thought about doing this because I read an article yesterday on Google, courtesy of Google, talking about the differences between physical and streaming media. Actually, it wasn't just Google that I found it on, it was also Facebook. Somebody had linked it on Facebook. But it was an interesting kind of read because um, just like a lot of people have been doing lately with articles over this past year and of the past couple of years, they've been talking about, the differences between both formats and how one benefits over the other and vice versa. But lately, it seems that a lot more people are coming out and defending physical media due to the word and news that came out recently over the past couple weeks about Amazon coming out. And I did a video on this, and John Campa has done a video on this. Many people have done a video on this. Clownfish TV. Many people have talked about this because it is a major news article, especially when it comes to purchasing movies via streaming and all that, or putting in the code to get the free streaming version of the movie, digital version of the movie when you have the physical version. Uh, but yeah, this is something that a lot of people have been defending because of the fact that Amazon, and again, this is one of the reasons why it's coming to the forefront even more so now, and more people are coming to defend it, is because Amazon has come out and said, look, even when you purchase or put in the digital code for the streaming version of the movie, the digital version of the movie, you don't technically own it. It's more like, as I put it in my video, more of a loan, like you're being loaned, it's being loaned out to you for an indefinite time. But that indefinite time could come to an end at any time, we just don't know when. And this is why a lot of people have come to the defense of physical media recently, if not more so than ever, because now they're starting to realize, hey, we thought at first there was no limitations to the streaming of movies and shows from anywhere we want, but yet now we're finding out that there is a limitation. It may not be an immediate limitation, but it's a limitation. And there are other factors as well. And one of the things or factors that this article pointed out was the fact that when you compare the viewing experience, that when you view the physical copy, the physical media copy of the movie or the show on your DVD or your Blu-ray or your 4K Blu-ray player, that the image is a lot more sharper and cleaner, and you get a little bit more detail. Comparing it to, thus, when you compare it to the streaming version, yeah, you get a nice picture and everything, and it looks identical to what you see on television, but there's that difference to where it's kind of squeezed down a little bit. Like you can sense that there's something a little different about it, even though it doesn't look like it. So I figured, why not come on here and talk about the differences, in my opinion, and from what I've heard, when it comes to both streaming and physical, and how each benefits in their own way. So without further ado, guys, let's get that going. So let's talk about streaming first. Now, I'm not going to deny that having a streaming movie or a movie, digitally doesn't have its benefits. I mean, being able to watch your movie any place you want with, technically any device, if you will, is pretty cool. I'm not going to deny that. But, the one thing a lot of people, like I said with this article, have pointed out is there are some limitations. One of those limitations, if not sacrifices, that gets made is the picture quality. Now, my phone here emanates recording-wise on both ends, if you will, because it's got a camera on both ends, 1080p recording picture if you're recording the video this way. But if you're recording a video diagonally, if you know what I mean, then basically there's a good chance it's going to be in 720. Now, with that said, though, when it comes to streaming a movie, my phone, apparently, from what I've been told, emanates about, depending on the app that you use, 1080p picture quality. although a lot of phones, and this is the fine print you got to look at when you're purchasing a phone or any kind of device, depending on which one it is, that fine print states that the picture quality you will get when you're streaming a show or a movie or something like YouTube or whatever, that basically it'll be streaming at DVD quality picture. In other words, you'll be getting a low resolution 1080p, high resolution 720p picture. That's what you'll be getting. You'll be getting a high resolution 720p to low resolution 1080p picture, because they have to squish it down to fit on that phone, because you're streaming it through, you know, the airwaves, or the digital airwaves, if you will, the cloud, if you will, straight to the source where you want it to go. And this also is very dependent on the fact that you have to make sure that whatever service you're using is powerful enough, or basically is working as well, to make you be able to do that. Or you got to make sure you're in a vicinity that allows you to have free Wi-Fi, but you got to make sure that free Wi-Fi has a strong enough signal, and you're not around a bunch of people. Fortunately, nowadays we can't be that much, but you should make sure you're not around a decent amount of people so that you can get a strong enough signal. I'll give you a good example. When I used to work at Walmart, you know, we had free Wi-Fi. They still do. But anytime me or my fellow associates would try to use the Wi-Fi, it wouldn't come in very well, because we'd have a bunch of customers doing the same thing. So the signal would be thinned out. So even if we wanted to watch a movie, we'd be able to do it, I should say, but we wouldn't be able to do it without it buffering or being interrupted, due to the fact that the signal was being, you know, the Wi-Fi signal was being, you know, thinned out, which is why a lot of us would depend basically on our phone plans, or data plans, if you will, that we have for our phones. You know, for me, I have Straight Talk, which for me, the option I have is a monthly deal. You know, other people, like, let's say my sisters, they have T-Mobile. My sisters and my mom, they have T-Mobile. You know, other members of my family have AT&T and Sprint and all these. And it all depends on the data cap that they have. Some of them have unlimited data cap. Some of them have a monthly limited data cap, which they can only be able to make sure they reserve by not using their phone to watch so much content via YouTube, Vudu, Movies Anywhere, Amazon Prime, iTunes, you name it. But the other thing they got to make sure is that the service is working, because one of the things that these phone services end up doing at times is they will end up doing maintenance, if not updates, without letting you know until maybe the last second, and that would cause interference. So the most likely scenario you have is to utilize the Wi-Fi from your own home. And usually that's probably the better solution, even though it has a monthly data cap on it, but it's not as bad as, let's say, your monthly phone data cap, if you will, unless you have an unlimited option on your plan. Now, again, I bring all this up basically because of the fact that this is one thing that they point out, that when you're watching streaming a movie that you've gotten through streaming and all that, whether it's Vudu, Movies Anywhere, Amazon Prime, iTunes, Xfinity Stream, AT&T Stream, Verizon, whatever, they said that the one thing that's a disadvantage is that the quality of the picture gets crunched down. That even though it looks like it's radiating a 1080p picture, you're actually watching it at high resolution 720. Because again, you look at the fine print, and that's basically what you're getting with any phone or device. Now, some devices, I will admit, nowadays do emulate 1080p quality picture, no matter what device it is, whether it's a phone, a tablet, a Kindle, an iPad Air, a Surface, whatever you want, whatever you utilize, a Chromebook, again, like I said, whatever you utilize, basically, nowadays you have devices that emulate that 1080p, if not 4K resolution. But it's not at the kind of 4K resolution or 1080p resolution you expect. It's at a low 1080p resolution, and for 4K, it's at a high 1080p, low 4K resolution. And even though it may look like there's not much difference, there is a difference, and you could tell. One of the differences, of course, is when it buffers. And sometimes you get like a little bit of a mishmash picture. You're thinking, why is it so pixelated? Why I can't see anything? It's because it's buffering and it's gathering all the data it needs to, send to your device where you want to see the movie or the show from. So that, and thus by doing so, that way it clears it up. And again, like I said, depending on what public place you're at that has free Wi-Fi, you got to make sure that there's not a lot of people using it at the same time, because that will thin out the signal. Now, despite that, I'm not going to deny that streaming doesn't have its benefits. Like I said, being able to view a movie, anywhere you go on any device is a great option. I mean, one of the things I would do riding the bus to work and from work is I would get on here, if you will, I would get on here on my phone, go to the Vudu app or the Prime app or even Movies Anywhere, and I would watch a movie just to buy the time. That way, I'm not bored or anything. I'd be able to watch something, like I said, that would be able to buy the time until I got home. But here's the thing. Even though I was watching it on the bus, I still had issues, because sometimes it would have to, catch up with itself and have to buffer. And the other thing was, the bus, even though it was offering free Wi-Fi now, other people were using the free Wi-Fi as well. So even though it wasn't like a huge amount of people, like let's say at Walmart, people were still using it, so it kind of thinned out the signal. And that was kind of a disadvantage, if you will, to having to stream my movies that I would watch on the way home. But if it was only me, or if just a few people, I wouldn't have a problem. But again, like I said, I do respect and appreciate the idea that you can watch a movie anywhere you want through the digital streaming means. However, some streaming apps and services do have limitations, mostly if they're related to your cable service. For example, with Xfinity, and I'm sure this goes for AT&T, Dish, Verizon, Cablevision, whatever. Basically, when it comes to those streaming apps, there are limitations. I'll give you an example. This past Saturday, I ordered and DVR'd All Elite Wrestling's Full Gear. Now, yesterday I had the intention of putting it onto DVD, but that didn't happen. I don't know if it's because of the HD pay-per-view channel I ordered and DVR'd it from, because it was a higher quality resolution channel than the one I normally do, or it was because nowadays a lot of cable companies are smartening up to the fact that, hey, people still have digital disc recorders, DVD or Blu-ray recorders. We need to make sure they don't use them to record these things, because they may sell them or whatever. So basically, I recorded All Elite Wrestling's Full Gear pay-per-view, and knowing that there's a possibility that my mom, because she does this at times to make room for her stuff, which is not a problem. She's a huge Hallmark fan, a fan of the Hallmark movies, especially at this time of year. I was kind of worried if maybe she might take it off. So I checked the app on my phone, and it looked like Full Gear wasn't there. And I'm thinking, wait a minute. Last time I checked it on the TV, it was still in the recording options. In other words, the programs that I recorded. But it's not here. Where is it? So I went back to the TV, and it was still in the recording section of programs that we had recorded. And that right there is a disadvantage. And it's to streaming, because even if you order something through the stream, through, let's say, your cable provider on pay-per-view, and you DVR record it, and your app allows you to watch your DVR recordings or certain ones that is, no matter where you go, you would think being able to watch Full Gear, like a wrestling pay-per-view, like that I should say, wouldn't be a problem, but it is. Because, even though you know it's there, even though you know you recorded it, it doesn't show up on the app. And one, that would worry you. And two, the fact that that's a limitation. That's a limitation that you have to deal with. That there are certain things that you could DVR through your cable, whether it's Xfinity, AT&T, or whatever, that you can't watch on your mobile streaming app that they provide. I mean, heck, there are some programs they tell you, hey, you can only watch this programming or this show via your Wi-Fi on your phone from your home. You can't watch it anywhere else. You can't watch it in public at Walmart. You can't watch it in public at Starbucks. You can't do any of that. You got to watch it from home. And it's like, are you serious? What's the point of DVRing a show or a movie, and now you're adding the option of, oh, you can only watch it from home? What's the point, right? And again, these are just disadvantages. Now, unlike Vudu and Movies Anywhere and Prime, you don't have to worry about that because you can watch those anywhere without limitations, despite the picture quality and all that. But when it comes to the streaming app that's provided by your cable provider, that's another story. So yeah, there are limitations. There are limitations, no doubt. But there are other limitations as well, especially when it comes to, what movies or what streaming apps you use to watch certain movies. For example, Movies Anywhere is a very prominent service that connects all the established streaming apps out there, along with all the well-renowned established movie studios and distributors. However, even Movies Anywhere has limitations because there is one company that they don't deal with for some odd reason. Although there are some movies through other distributors like MGM who work with this other studio to provide a movie. There are some exceptions, but there is one studio, along with a few others I'm pretty sure, that Movies Anywhere does not deal with, does not have any, partnership with, and that's Paramount. And I bring this up because the only way you can get a digital version of a Paramount movie, to stream is to go and purchase separately, if you want to, separately, on Vudu and Prime and iTunes and whatever, Fandango, Microsoft, whatever. You have to go separately and make separate individual purchases of that movie at those locations. And I should know. I did this with Transformers the movie, 1986. I did this with Transformers live action, 2007. I did this recently with Wonderful Life and White Christmas. And you would think, well, shouldn't those be available on Movies Anywhere? Well, you would think, but it's because of who distributes those films right now that obviously that Movies Anywhere does not have a partnership with. I mean, something, like I said, Paramount's one of the big ones, and whoever these distributors are of, Wonderful Life and White Christmas, they're another one because they don't allow you to, purchase the movie, as is. They don't. They don't allow you to just go to one site, purchase it, which is their site, and have it distributed or notified and distributed and added to your playlist at the other streaming sites. Instead, you got to go to Amazon Prime. You got to go through Vudu, just to, get the movie. Or you got to go to iTunes or Fandango or, app or Microsoft or wherever to get the movie. So even a place like Movies Anywhere, which again is a premier distributing streaming site that connects that is basically the be-all, end-all, supposedly, of streaming, so you can have a connection so that when you order a movie, it's instantly distributed to all the services you use. It too, unfortunately, I should say, has limitations. So even though streaming, like I said, one of the benefits about it is being able to watch a movie wherever you want, whenever you want, on whatever device you want, there are limitations. And those limitations are sacrifice of picture quality, even though it may not be noticeable at times. You know, the service that you use to stream your show or your movie, and also the fact that, as well as three, depending on what your cable streaming app is capable of, there are limitations to what you can watch, even if you DVR it, away from home and at home, or compared to being at home. And then, of course, what I just mentioned, the fact that even certain movie sites, like let's say Movies Anywhere, which is the connector of all streaming sites, basically, it has limitations because it may not have a full-fledged deal with certain studios, major or independent, because of reasons. And you just got to deal with that. Again, I'm not dissing or saying anything wrong about, digital movies and having the ability to watch them anywhere and at any time on any device. I think that's a great option. It's just that there are limitations. The other big limitation, as I mentioned at the beginning of this video, is what Amazon pretty much said in their defense and in the defense of the other streaming sites. And that is, technically, you may have a physical copy of the movie and you may use a digital code to get a digital copy or purchase a digital copy, but you don't technically own it. It's more of an indefinite loan to you until a certain time when the deal is, ended or broken between, Amazon and whatever studios that they're partnered with. So, or the same with Vudu and all of them. So yeah, that's one of the biggest disadvantages too. But so basically nowadays, and if not recently, when you have people coming out and saying this is why this proves that this is just further proof why, despite streaming having the advantages of to watch things anywhere at any time, or most things anywhere anytime on any device, that the advantage that physical media still has is that you don't have to worry about it disappearing or just suddenly being removed from your playlist because of certain reasons, despite the fact that you plucked down money for it, because you will physically own it. You will physically have it. But, what are the advantages, if not disadvantages, of physical media that people defend when it comes to streaming? Well, let's talk about that. So, what are the advantages that physical media has, and maybe some limitations? Well, let's start off with the limitations. The limitations that they have, according to someone like John Campa, is you own 90% of what you have. Like, I own 90% of this, but there's a 10% of it that I don't. That 10% is basically the inability, I should say, or inability, whatever you want to call it, inability, if you will, inability to basically make a copy of this anywhere I want. Basically, I can't put this into my computer here. My computer doesn't have a Blu-ray drive, but if it did, I can't put this in here and burn it to another Blu-ray disc or DVD. I can't do that. I can't put this into my Blu-ray player, here in my room, connect my Blu-ray player through various means to my DVD recorder and record it to DVD. Can't do that. And that's just proof of the 10% that I don't own. Another part of the 10% that I may not own is if I want to put on these special features, possibly on YouTube, to add more content to my channel. I can't do that without risking the chance that I could get copyrighted and my channel could be taken down. But besides that, I do own 90% of this. This is basically mine forever and a day. So the limitation is you can't make any copies of it no matter what. The other limitation is even if you want to share the movie with somebody, and you have a digital copy of it, or a digital code for a digital copy, that I'm guessing, in my opinion, the digital code is connected to your movie only. So even if you use it and you're thinking, okay, I can give it to a friend and they can use it, the code will already be used. So that's a limitation right there. So even though there are limitations, as you notice, there are less limitations when it comes to physical media compared to streaming. And this is why people nowadays, especially recently with the news that Amazon has provided by stating that people don't technically own their digital movies, mainly they're on loan, from what I can tell, in my opinion, indefinite loan. Basically, this is why, like I said, people are defending, are coming around even more so now and defending physical media. Mainly because of the fact that you, 90% of the time, own the physical copy. You don't have to worry about all of a sudden it going poof into thin air. You don't have to worry about that. You will have it basically on your shelf, like I have this one. You will have it on your shelf, be able to pull it out whenever you want, and that's it. And that's fine. You don't have to worry about it going poof, disappearing. You don't have to worry about that. You physically have it. So you can watch it at any time, anywhere. Not anywhere, but you can watch it at any time from the comfort of your home, and you don't have to worry. So basically, that's one of the biggest advantages. People are now coming out more so than ever, especially with this, this news that Amazon has provided, like I said, in defending physical media. Another reason people are coming out and defending physical media more so, especially with this article that I read yesterday, the reason they're defending physical media even more so is the fact that when you compare the picture quality, the picture looks a heck of a lot better than it does through streaming. Mainly because of the fact that when you compare the digital copy to the physical copy, and this is the one thing this article pointed out, a physical copy like a Blu-ray or an Ultra Blu-ray can hold a lot more data. It holds a lot more data within it. Thus, when you're putting this into your Blu-ray player or your Ultra HD Blu-ray player, basically it's getting the information directly from the source. It doesn't have to worry about getting information through the cloud, unless, of course, you have a modem like I have right here from your cable service that allows you to do that. So in other words, you'll be able to directly, especially if the modem's in your room or in the middle of your house, in whatever, in the middle of your house or wherever you feel you can get the best signal or the strongest signal. Basically, you don't have to really worry about, okay, am I going to have a lot of interference because of too many people using the service? You won't have to worry about that because, boom, you get instant access right there. And that's fine. But even with that, though, the picture may look nice and everything, and believe me, it does, especially on a 4K television, don't get me wrong. The thing is, like I mentioned when I was talking about streaming, what you're getting is more along the lines of a low resolution 4K and a very high HDR 1080p. That's it. You're getting a high resolute HDR 1080p to low res 4K when you're doing the streaming option, when you're utilizing the streaming option on to watch a movie or something like that. Like, yesterday I wanted to stream a little bit of Justice League Dark Apocalypse War, and the picture looked great. It looked absolutely phenomenal. But I could even tell that there were a little bit of lag, not much, tiny bit of lag, and also I could tell that the picture quality just a bit was toned down. So that was this, again, like I said when I talked about streaming, that is the sacrifice you make when you want to stream. It's the picture quality. It may not be too noticeable, especially if you're in very close proximity of whatever service you're using to stream it, but still, it is a sacrifice you have to make. Compared though to the picture quality you get when you have your Blu-ray player or your Ultra Blu-ray player or even your DVD player directly playing the disc. because it's getting it directly from the disc itself, and the disc has a higher capacity for data and imagery and all that, especially if it's Blu-ray or Ultra Blu-ray, even DVD. So it has that ability. I mean, DVD basically, believe it or not, because I have DVD plus R recordable disc right at my fingertips here. These things, if I can find the thing on here. These things, let me see if I can find one. Hold on. Here we go. It may not say, but these things here, trying to see if it says it on here. Well, it doesn't say it, but normally these things here hold about, last time heard, 4.7 gigabytes. You know, this is why, you know, a lot of people prefer physical media, because they get a, and that's DVD. So you can imagine Blu-ray and Ultra Blu-ray double or triple that size, if you know what I mean, or 4 times, 8 times that size. You know, the thing, you know, but what I'm trying to get at is this is why people, you know, prefer physical media, and again, why people are coming to its defense as of late. You know, because basically the capacity size allows you to have better picture quality, you know, no matter what. So even with, let's say, this, which is on a Blu-ray disc, and it's the Blu-ray, of course, is like 2-3 times more efficient than a DVD disc, you get a better picture, especially when it's coming directly from the disc itself. So that's a big advantage right there. I mean, heck, even if you have a media that you recorded, like, you know, I have a DVD recorder, and when I would utilize it in the past, you know, the picture quality, despite, you know, the speed, the recording speed I would use, would still look good. Heck, I was watching the first disc on my 2012 set of my holiday movies and DVDs, and basically, recordable stuff that I did, and basically when I was watching Hollywood Christmas, it looked great. It looked tremendous. You know, even though I was viewing it in 1080p, I could view it now in 4K, it looked great. The picture looked great. The imagery looked a lot better than what you would see streaming-wise, you know, anywhere else. And again, this is why people defend it. This is why people defend it, because of the fact that you get a higher resolution. You get the true resolution picture quality. Now, if you add in the fact that the other advantage people say that, you know, physical media has is with certain Blu-ray players and Ultra Blu-ray players, you could play any disc. You can play any movie. Like I just said, you can play any physical media if it's in your region, if not most regions. You could, like I said, play any physical media. So, for example, yesterday, I finally connected my Ultra 4K Blu-ray player, Ultra HD 4K Blu-ray player, directly to the TV. I did not use, I mean, what I did is I unplugged it from the HDMI switcher, put the PlayStation into place, and then put the HDMI cord for the Blu-ray player into PlayStation's HDMI port on the TV. And basically, once I set it up to be at 4K, because that's what I did beforehand, long story short, what I did is I figured, oh, I got the audio extractor removed now, maybe that's going to help. Well, it technically did, but I couldn't play my disc on my Blu-ray player because I wasn't getting a signal until I put the Blu-ray player directly into the TV, and I got a signal, and now I can view things in 4K. And like I was saying, that's one advantage people say that physical media has, because now that you're getting these higher resolution Blu-ray players or disc players, video disc players that is, you know, you could even play stuff like this on them, and you know what they're proposed to be, or what the high resolution that you want to view something at, you know, is basically part of it, I should say. Like for example, my video output for my player is 4K because I have a 4K TV. Basically, since this is like a high resolution 1080p movie, what you could do when you put this in there is you'll get a better picture. Like the picture is going to look good anyway, but it looks more better. It's like basically it enhances the picture. It up converts the picture from regular 1080p to 4K, in a sense. I'll give you another example. And I know I sound like I'm rambling. It's early still, so I do apologize. It's about 9:01 a.m. right now on this Friday. But I'll give you another example. G.I. Joe the movie, the 1986 animated film. When I played this yesterday in my Ultra HD Blu-ray player, after I connected it directly into the TV, the picture looked fabulous. It looked fabulous. It looked better than what it did before. Because even when I had the Blu-ray player connected to the HDMI switcher, it still looked fine. The disc still looked fine and everything, even when I was viewing it at 1080p. But once you choose an option, if you have a 4K player and a 4K TV, once you choose the option to go 4K, if you will, then you could definitely tell that the imagery looks a lot better. You get more detail and everything. And again, that's another reason why people are defending physical media. You know, they're defending it due to the fact that basically, long story short, you know, you're able to do backwards compatibility with your players, unlike streaming. Because streaming, basically, you only get one option, and that's it. Depending on, you know, what, you know, like I said, what streaming device you have and what it's capable of. Here, you have the option to play any disc, you know, video disc media, if you will, on the highest quality of players, like a 4K player, and the picture will look a lot better. I mean, again, you even have the option through that backwards compatibility to view it at 4K. And it will tell you, like mine, when I put it on display, will say 4K 30p, like 30 pixels, you know, 30 frames per second, if you will. Or we'll say 4K 60p, 60 frames per second, or 4K 24p. It'll be like 4K slash 24p, or 4K slash 30p, or 4K slash 60p. And it will look great. It will look tremendous. And again, that's another reason people come to the defense of physical media, even more so now than ever. Because they know it, because they're starting to realize as well, if not in the past, when we started getting the 4K Ultra Blu-ray players along with the TVs, they're starting to notice that you have that backwards compatibility. So even if, let's see what I got here. Let me see. I know I got something here. Hold on. Oh, here we go. So let's say this is DVD, right? And I want to play this on my 4K Ultra Blu-ray. Yeah, I'll get the aspect ratio of the square box, you know, as it was traditionally first seen in on CR TVs and all that. But when I look at the display, it'll say 4K, possibly 30 frames per second, or 30p. And the picture quality will be up converted from, I'm assuming, 720 or 480, from 480, high 480 to low 720 to basically 4K, to low 4K, high 1080. That's what will be up converted to. It'll be up converted to a 4K picture quality. Not fully, but it'll be up converted to it. And I bring that, and again, I bring all this up because that's the advantage people see, or, you know, kind of present when it comes to defending physical media nowadays. Not just the fact that basically you own 90% of that media, except for the 10% that I mentioned, but also the fact that you get a better picture because it's getting drawn directly from the disc itself. And on top of that, you have that backwards compatibility to where you could play any format on that player, and depending on that player and the options it gives you, will make the picture look a heck of a lot better. Especially if depending on the viewing screen that you are utilizing to view that experience. So basically, in the long run, physical media, it has its limitations. Like, one of the biggest limitations that people will notice, although they're not too concerned about when it comes to Blu-ray or Ultra Blu-ray, but more so with DVD, is the potential of scratching it up or dirtying it, because that could cause some distortion, some buffering, some skipping. But they're not that concerned but it's not that much of a concern though with Blu-rays or Ultra Blu-rays, but it is a concern a little bit with DVDs, more so than anything. I mean, yeah, there is that concern with the 4K, with the Blu-rays and all that, but not as much. The only concern you have is if you accidentally drop it and break it, and that's it. But more so than anything, though, like I said, the limitations are you don't own 10% of it, you can't make copies, and the fact is, mostly with DVDs, you only have to worry about scratches and all that, and maybe even losing it. So there are 4 limitations. I'll put it that way. Limitation is can't make a copy. You can't make a copy of it. Or no, okay. One is you don't own, one limitation is there's 10% of that movie that you don't own. 2, coinciding with that, is you can't make a physical copy of it, even if you wanted to. 3, the potential of scratch-ups and all that, and breakage. And 4, you might lose the disc and you have to rely on the streaming copy. And that's it. Most of the other things are positives outweighing the negatives. And this is why people still prefer physical media, because they see it has more advantages over, streaming. Again, nothing against streaming, and everybody would agree. Streaming does have that great advantage of being able to watch something anywhere at any time on any device. The only problem is, it's the only disadvantages, the limitations are the service you may have, the Wi-Fi if you can get a strong enough signal, and mostly not knowing whether or not that movie or show you've purchased is going to be around much longer, because even though it's on indefinite loan, as I look at it to you, you don't know how long it's going to be, because now you have places like Amazon coming out and saying, hey, you don't technically own the movie digitally that you just purchased. So yeah, basically this is, again, why people defend physical media, past and even present, because of the advantages it has more so over streaming. So, in the end, when you compare the two, the advantages and disadvantages, the major advantage overall that streaming has, digital movies, is you can watch them from anywhere, anytime, from any device. That's the major advantage that it has. Especially when you compare it to physical media, because you can only watch physical media from the comfort of your home, or if you have a portable Blu-ray or DVD device. So that's the big advantage people always, bring up when it comes to digital media, streaming-wise. But when it comes to physical media, the big advantage that they always argue and bring to the forefront is you could watch it not only from the comfort of your own home, but the fact that you do physically own 90% of that film, if you will, physically now, because you have the Blu-ray, DVD, 4K copy. But also the fact that, you get a better picture, better quality, it comes directly from the source, and you don't have to worry about it vanishing into thin air, for some unexplained reason without you being notified. So those are the biggest advantages. Those are the biggest advantages that they give you. And also, again, the other big advantage that they argue is that backwards compatibility. to be able to play DVDs, Blu-rays, and on something like, let's say, a 4K Ultra Blu-ray player, and get a great quality at 4K, if not higher resolution. So in the end, both have their advantages and their disadvantages. Like I said, both have the the positives, the negatives, the unlimitations, and the limitations. So in the end, both are great formats to utilize and have access to. And I don't have a problem with either one of them. It's just, again, you could tell why people in the end would favor, even though, like I said, streaming has that advantage of being able to watch anything, anywhere, at any time on any device, why people still argue in support of physical media, and why they see physical media is not dying out. I mean, let's take a look at vinyl record players, if you will. Everybody thought, those were dying out. Those were history. Those were the past. Guess what? They've made a comeback in a major way, and have become more popular than ever before, and have outsold CDs and tapes and all that, more so than anybody expected. And this is why people still, defend physical media, because they could probably see a similar trend happening with physical media in the near future, if not currently. Especially, some people will argue with what Amazon just brought to the table with saying, hey, you don't technically own the movies you get digitally. So in the end, though, guys, like I said, both have the advantages and disadvantages, positives, negatives, unlimitations, limitations. They both have the fair share, but in the end, people will probably point more towards physical media as being the more superior media still, despite what you may believe, is the future of, visual media. So with that said, though, guys, thank you all for watching. I know this was kind of like, out of nowhere, and it may have sounded like I rambled throughout this, because of course I'm doing this without a script. I'm doing this without bullet points, just what comes to my mind and everything. And after, of course, I did a little practicing as well, before putting this on. But yeah, that's just my thoughts on it. Let me know what your thoughts are. Do you agree with what I've had to say on both fronts? And which side of the formats do you defend? Which side do you think has more of an advantage over the other? Let me know down below, and I'll talk to y'all later. Peace out.